Okay, so we are done with this part. We were midway here and the electricity went away immediately and I couldn't do anything at that particular point of time. So let us just do one thing. Let us just restart this lecture. So here, I won't be covering if and if else part. I'll simply move forward to concept of object-oriented programming, right? So here we were working with this. Now let me just do one thing. Let me just delete this project and create a new one. Okay. So I'll delete the project. See, deleting project is easy. All you have to do is that choose the correct option. If you want to delete the project completely and contents on the disk as well, then you need to choose this option and click on OK. Everything would be deleted. Now let us just create a new project, new Java project or simple project. Then go to Java and Java project and click on next. Now here we need to provide the project name. So that is day 2. And here let us just make sure few things. The GRE and Java SE 1.8 is selected, right? Or we can specify a project specific GRE as well. I'll go with this execution environment GRE, that is 1.8, right? Click on finish. We are done creating a new project. Now what we have to do is that we need to create a new class. I'll name the class as car, right? And car.java. Now here I would be doing few things, right? So what we would be doing is we would be declaring some stuff. For example, first thing is I'll just have a comment here and I'll say declaring variables, right? Now what variables I would declare? First thing is integer, say price, right? This is what we had earlier as well. I won't be specifying a value. I'll just declare the variable, right? Then string and say name, right? So these are the two things that we're going to have. I'll save this class. Now what I would be doing is I would be accessing price and name in another class with the help of an object, right? What happens is that this is the data inside this class. This cannot be accessed directly right now, right? And what happens is that we need to create a new object for this, right? So how would we be able to do that? Let us just create a new class and the class name is test car, right? Now in test car, what we would be doing is we would be first of all having something that would allow us to have the say test executed, and that is the main method, right? The code should be executed with the main method only, right? Now here what I'll do is I'll initialize the class. So car C1 equals to new car, right? This is done. Now this means that I can access variables specified in C1, right? Say C1 dot price, and the price is 15,000, right? So done. Now regarding the name, so say C1 dot name, and it is Suzuki, right? Now the next thing is, if you notice something, I wrote Suzuki, but there is a problem. What is the problem? Notice it here, it is underlined and it is telling me that there is a problem. Create a constant Suzuki, and it is asking me for a few things, right? Actually, it is not able to understand what Suzuki is. If you notice something, this name variable, it is of type string, right? Now, whenever we specify a string type data, we need to make sure that we are specifying the data inside the double quotes. If we don't, we won't be able to work with the code. Okay. Now the error is gone. We can work with it. Now suppose I would like to print this. So system.out.println, and here say C1.price and say system.out.println C2.name, say name, sorry, C1 dot name, right? Now to execute this, we need to click on this particular play button. This will execute the code, and we would want the code, say code to be saved every time. So we'll just choose this option, that is always save resources before launching. Once done, it won't be asking you to save the code again and again. It will automatically save all the code before launching. Now you can see that 15,000 and Suzuki has got printed. What if I would want to store more data, right? Question is, how would we be able to do that? The solution is very simple. Declare another class, sorry, declare another object. How? Car C2 equals to new car, right? Now here, if this is done, you guys can see that we can have price and name variable again. Say C2 dot price, and the value this time is say 16,000, right? Now the name, say C2 dot name. Now what is the name? Say Subaru, right? So over here, these two things are done. Now the next thing is, we would like to say make use of this data, right? Now I have made a mistake here. I have missed out equals part, and this was causing us trouble. See, whenever we miss out something, whenever we make a mistake, Eclipse tells us sorry. So Eclipse tells us, for example, if I make a mistake here, it is immediately telling me that there is a syntax error, right? Now, if I got an error, I need to rectify it. So what I'll be doing is, I'll simply add up a equals mark, and it is done. Now, equals mark means assigning a value, right? This is done. Now we can print on say C2 dot price and C2 dot name, right? So let us just see that. SYSO control space will put up system.out.println automatically. Otherwise, you need to type this completely, right? C2.price, system.out.println, C2.name, right? Now, the shortcut to execute code is Control and F11 key. In case if you guys are using laptops, it may be asking you for function key to be pressed as well, right? Now, as you guys can see that Suzuki 15,000, 16,000, Subaru. What if I move this part from here? What if I keep it here, right? Now what would happen? Let us just see that. So if we notice something, objects are interdependent, right? Sorry, objects are not dependent on each other, right? Objects are totally independent, right? This means that I can have any data inside any of the object I created. So what is happening around here? Say, just a second. So what we did here right now, see, we have car which specifies say price and name, right? So price and name are here, that is okay. But what we are doing is, we are just say accessing them, where for example here, here and here, right? So this one is C1, this one is C2, consider this one as C3. I have not created it yet, but I would be creating it soon, right? Now we assigned an object here, this was done. We assigned an object here, this was done, and we will be assigning an object here as well. Now what happens is that, consider this price is integer and it contains 2 bytes of data. It blocks 2 bytes of memory, and this blocks 8 bytes of memory. Now, whenever we create object, 8 plus 2, 10 bytes. 8 plus 2, 10 bytes, right? And 8 plus 2, 10 bytes here as well, right? So simply we are allocating memory, right? So now whenever we create a new object, the memory is blocked, that is okay. But what all things we get? We get the variables price and name everywhere, right? These are the two variables we specified. So we'll be getting these two variables everywhere, price and name, right? So let us just try this and let us just go with the C3 as well. So over here, car C3 equals to new car, right? See, I made a mistake. Car C space C3. If I don't put in space, the code will not understand the thing, right? So new car, this is done. C3 dot price equals to 25,000, right? C3 dot name equals to, say, Toyota, right? Now this is done. Now the next thing is printing out this data. So system.out.println c1.price, c2.price, then c3.price, and in the same way c3.name, right? This is what I have changed. Let us just try running this code. Control F11 is the shortcut key that I'm using, and here you guys can see that this is the data. Now you may have a question in your mind that we are just specifying the data again and again. Why can't, is there something that we can play with this data as well, right? So actually, yes, we can play around with this data as well. Question is how, right? See, this is the object which is being created, right? This part, new car, makes a new object every time we call in this thing, right? On the other hand, what is C3 then? C3 is just a reference which points to a object, right? Now this means that C1 is also pointing to an object, C2 is also pointing to an object, and C3 is also pointing to an object, right? Now can we do something with this? What if I do something and here I specify something after printing out all this data? C1 equals to C2, right? What will happen, right? Let us just try printing out C1 now. Okay, so over here, this is done. Now I'll run this, Control F11, and as you guys can see that I'm printing C1, but 16,000 and Subaru is getting printed. This was for C2, right? Now how the data is being shared? So the thing is that here what happens is that C2, C1, C3, they are just pointers. So what happens is that whenever we create an object, right? Suppose this is the main class. These are the objects that we created, right? And what we did was, say we created C1, C2, C3, right? Simple. Now over here, what we did was we allocated it here, right? So done. Now this is a more clear image. We are creating objects, we are allocating them somewhere, and the allocation is done. Now instead of having this allocation like this, what I'll do is I simply specify the object of C2 to C1 as well. I can map that, right? So C1 and C2 are sharing the same object. Now what this means, right now, this one is having 15,000 Suzuki. This one is having 16,000 Subaru. And this one is having 25,000 Toyota. Right? Now C1 and C2 are sharing the same object. What all things I can do? Can I change this name? Right? For example, instead of Subaru, can I have a name something else? For example, say Ford. Right? Can I do that? Let us just see that. So over here, we printed out some data, that is okay. Now I'll make some change in C1. C1 dot name equals to Ford. Right? I did this. Now let us just print C2 dot price and C2 dot name. Right? Control F11. You guys can see that price is okay, but name has changed to Ford in C2. So what is happening around here? We are just changing the data in one object, but data is changing at other places as well. So C1 and C2 are pointing at a single point object, right? So if I make some changes in C1, C2 would also reflect those changes, right? Now this means that a single object can be shared with multiple pointers, right? And this also means that we can create object anytime. Now this means that if I do something, say I would like to say create some object. Question is, how would we be able to create that object, right? Creation of object is easy. Simply type new car, right? Now the object will be created here whenever we run it. But the only thing is that we won't be able to reuse it because it is not allocated anywhere, right? Now the main thing about say objects is done. Now the next thing, that is say the constructor, right? If you notice something, sometimes what happens is that we declare an object but we specify data inside as well. How do we do that? If I do something here, for example, in C2 I specify my name here, right? It will immediately tell me that there is a problem, right? So it is giving me two suggestions. First one is to remove the argument that I specified. Second suggestion is creating a constructor. What does that mean? So over here, it asked me to create a constructor and I created that. So what happens is that whenever we create an object of a class and we create a constructor, constructor is a method which is being called off by default whenever the object is being declared for that particular class, right? This means that we have got some data. Say I'll name this as user name, right? And I simply print out this data. Say hello and then the username, right? So username, and we just print it. Okay. Now I have done something here. Control Shift F to format the code in case if you would need to, right? And here this part is done. Now let us just try executing this code. Control F11. You guys would notice something. Right now it is causing me trouble. Why it is causing me trouble, right? Now I created a constructor and other two things are not getting initialized now, right? Reason is that now when I have a constructor, it is asking me some information, right? Now we need to create the object in a way so that this information would be provided every time, right? So here, let us just provide some dummy names, say AAA and say BBB, right? Control F11, and you guys would notice something. Hello AAA, hello Abhishek, and hello BBB, and then these things are going around. Now this means that if I create a constructor, sorry, if I create an object directly, would I be able to see what's happening around here, right? Let me just do one thing. Let me just create one default constructor as well. Say public car. Now, if you notice something, the class name is also car, the method name is also car, and the case is also same. So whenever we declare a constructor, it is mandatory to specify the same class name, right? And I'll just print out something, say hello without a name. Now, if I do this, I can remove these AAAs, right? And BBBs. Control F11. Now you would notice that only hello, hello, and hello Abhishek got printed. Now this is done. Now what is the difference between both of these types of constructors, right? So the first one is a default constructor, but on the other hand, the second one is a parameterized constructor. We are simply parameterizing the data, right? We are just parameterizing this method which would be called off, which would receive some data, right? From where it will receive the data? The data would be provided here in this part wherever we simply initialize the object, right? Now, can we have multiple objects, right? I showed you that we can create an object like this, say new car, right? So can we have multiple objects created like this? Say we have 10 objects, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'll simply comment out other code, right? So how would I be able to comment out all the code? Control / and it will comment out everything. Now control F11 will execute the code. Now if you guys notice something, it will be initializing something. Okay, I made a mistake, not test car. See, a very silly mistake from my side. It should be car. Okay. Now here, I'll just make the object 10 times, or say 5 times is okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Control F11. We would notice something. Hello is being printed 5 times. Whenever we create an object, the say object will be created. Whenever we call off this line, the object, new object would be created, right? I can parameterize this constructor as well. I can parameterize the data here as well. Say Abhishek. Control F11, and you guys can see that hello, hello, hello Abhishek, hello, hello, right? So this is done. Now over here, coming back to this car part, right? Let me just uncomment everything first. Can we add up more data to it? Yes. For example, I would like to have a variable wheels. So C1 dot wheels, right? Now variable is not there, right? And if I specify some data, say number of wheels are 4, right? Variable is not here. Eclipse is suggesting me something now. Create a field wheels in type car. If I click here, it will automatically create a say variable. If you notice something, the return type is say the access specifier is public. What does this mean? I'll come back to this in some time. Let us just make use of this right now. Number of wheels equals to 4. Now every car has 4 wheels. This means that I need to specify it everywhere, right? Now let us just print out the data as well. So for C1, we will be printing data here, and C1 dot wheels. In the same way, we would have the data for C2, and in the ending, system.out.println C2 dot wheels, and here the last thing, C3. right? So here system.out.println c3.wheels, right? Now we don't need this particular part of code. I'll just comment it out. Now we'll run this. Now over here, what's happening around? If you notice something, okay, I made a mistake. C1.wheels, it was supposed to be C2.wheels, right? And it was supposed to be C3.wheels. Now it will work fine, right? So this is the data, right? Now data is okay, everything is okay. Now what's next? What is happening around here? So over here, we specified the wheels 4, 4 and 4. Now the data, right? Memory allocated. Say memory allocated is 12 bytes, 12 bytes and 12 bytes. Right now the memory allocated is okay. It is very less. So we can work with it, right? But if you notice something, there is some common data across every object, that is wheels. Number of wheels are 4 everywhere. Can we do something so that we don't need to specify this data again and again, and we can access this data directly as well? Actually, yes. So what we would be doing is, with wheels, we would be specifying something more clearly, that is, say it is static. Now if I specify static, what other things are then, right? So other things are non-static. So the question is, what is the difference between static and non-static, right? Static is something whose data does not change. Once you specify the data, you can simply access that data later on. But on the other hand, non-static, the data changes every object, right? We cannot access data of one object from the another object, right? So over here, if I do something, say, first thing, notice there is a problem. The code has issues. What is the issue? The static field car.wheels should be accessed in a static way. This means that now whenever there is a something static, we cannot access it with the help of an object. Question is, then how would we be able to access that? Accessing that part is very easy now. Once you have specified static, this means that the data is not changing. This also means that we can specify the data something like this. Say class name dot wheels, right? Car dot wheels. Now this has been specified. This means that I can access it here like this, car dot wheels, right? And I can replicate this line everywhere. So car dot wheels. Now I need to remove this line. I need to remove this number of wheels line here as well. Control F11, and the data is getting printed the same, but now there is a difference. What is the difference? Now instead of 12 bytes, right, the data, the memory allocation is only 10 bytes. Then where did 2 bytes go, right? Actually, wheels allocated its 2 bytes here as well, here only. Okay. So the size, say the memory is blocked here directly. We don't need to create an object to block memory, right? So this means that we can have access to this information directly with a lower memory footprint, right? This is done. Now what's next, right? So over here, we are done with a lot of things. Now let me just have some more example with you guys. Say I can have more information in car. I can specify some more information as well. Say we have right now the variables only. Can we have the methods as static as well or non-static? Actually, yes. So let us just create some method, right? Now over here, say public static, say void. Now why void? Because I don't want to return the data. I just want to call off this method, right? So public static void, and here I'll just do something, that is specify the method name. So what is the method name? The method name is say start car. Now whenever we are starting the car, suppose the procedure is same, right? So system.out.println, it should print starting the car, right? Now this means that I can call this method anytime I would want to. Question is how? Simply car dot start car. Control F11, and you guys can see that after C1 it would be printing starting the car. Done. Now can we have something specific to object that is non-static? Yes. How? Simply the same way we create the method, but there is a little difference. Public. Now I won't be specifying static. I'll just specify the access specifier void and say stop car, right? So over here, this is done. Now we can print out system.out.println and stopping the, say stopping, or let us just print out something here. Okay, so stopping, say name. Okay, so name would be used, right? How I made use of this name variable. I'm not specifying the value here. Let us just see that what happens. So here I would be say calling off the method. Now how would we be able to call off that method? As it is a non-static, so C1 dot stop car. Control F11, and you guys can notice something. It is printing stopping Suzuki, right? So data is accessed from the object directly, right? This means that if I call off these two things here, right, and here as well, this one thing needs to be changed, C2 and C3, right? I'll put on a demarcation line so that we would be able to differentiate the data more clearly now. Okay, so this is fine. And this is done. Okay, control F11. Now you guys can see that stopping Suzuki, stopping Subaru, and stopping Toyota. Starting the car, starting the car, starting the car, right? Now this is what we wanted to see, and this is what we are able to see as well. Okay, now the next thing, that is how it is helpful for us in case of Selenium. Why did we learn this, right? Now let us just do one thing. Let us just move to the official website of Selenium for some time, right? So that is seleniumhq.org, right? Now as I showed you something earlier, that there are some browsers which are compatible, right? So over here, browsers, these are the browsers which are compatible. Now I have Google Chrome with me right now, so let us just start working with Google Chrome. Okay, first thing first, we need to have the Selenium jars added here in the project. Right click over the project, go to properties, Then go to Java build path in case if you're not here, then go to libraries, then click on add external jars. Do not add library or class folder or external class folder. Simply click on add external jars. Do not click on add jars as well. This is very specific. Click on add external jars only. Done. Now these are the jars that we need to add. So let us just add up all the jars. And here, this is done. Now over here, click on apply and close. Once added, we would be able to work with these jars, right? Now what I'll do is I'll create a new class, and the class name is say Selenium Basics, right? Now we learned something. Let us just make use of that. So main method. Okay, one thing left, public. What is public? Whenever we specify something public, this means that that thing can be accessed outside the class directly as well. Okay, now here Control Shift F, Control Shift Format. Okay, now here what I would be doing is, instead of initializing say car, now I would be doing something. I want to work with Google Chrome. So I need to specify something that is say Chrome driver equals to new Chrome driver, right? Now here, what did I do? So here we just created an object for Google Chrome driver, right? And driver is pointing to new Chrome driver, right? So driver is pointing to this particular object that has been created here, right? Control F11. Let's see what happens. Now, okay, just a second. It is not supposed to do this thing. Just give me a second, guys. Just a second. Okay. So over here, someone's mic is on. Okay. So over here, whenever we run this code, right? Control F11, we are not getting the say instance of Chrome opened. Instead, we are getting some error, right? Now, what this is not error, this is an exception. Now, whenever we get an exception, we need to go through that exception very clearly. Exception tells us that exception in the thread, which thread? Main, right? Main, right? Next, java.lang.illegal state exception. Do not read this part. Move forward for a while. Okay, right? This part is needed, but not right now, not in the current lecture. Next thing is the path to the driver executable must be set by the webdriver.chrome.driver, right? And it has given us a link as well, right? So what this is, see, whenever Selenium interacts with the browser, it does not interact with the browser directly, right? This means that suppose, just a second, suppose this is our code, right? And this is say browser, right? It is a bit larger. This is the browser, right? Now, whenever code needs to say need to interact with the browser, we cannot interact with it directly, right? Note that we cannot interact with it directly, but yes, we can interact with the browser with the help of something in between. That something, that intermediator is something that is a driver. So code will send request to the driver will forward that request, browser will give in some response, and driver will forward that response to the Selenium code. Okay, so there is an intermediator, but we don't have that intermediator specified here right now. Then what needs to be done? Simply go to downloads, and here in Selenium downloads, in the browser section, you would find that Chrome is there. Click on documentation, and here we would be taken to this particular page. Now on this page, we can download the Selenium, say Google ChromeDriver, right? So click on this current stable release. But before clicking on this, make sure that which version of say browser you're using. So click on this triple dot, go to help, then about Google Chrome, and you would see that there is a version specified, right? The version is 81.0.4044.138. Close this now. Go back and see the current stable release. This is the same version I'm using. So simply download this file. Now, if you go there, it would be asking you for a few files, say Linux, Mac, and Windows. So these are the three browsers supported by Google ChromeDriver, right? I'm using Windows, so I'll be downloading this file. If you're using Macintosh, you need to download this file. And in case if you're using Linux, then you need to download this file. Now you may have a question in your mind. I have a say 64-bit version of Windows. What I need to do? Simply download this driver. It will work for you, right? For other operating systems, it is mandated to have say 64-bit version of operating system. Okay. Now start download. Download is done. Now whenever the download is done, the file would be here. What you need to do is that you need to keep this file somewhere. So copy this file and keep it in a location. For example, right now I'll keep it here in my A drive directly, ChromeDriver.exe. Right now here in this file, how we can use this file, right? Going back to the code, before specifying the line ChromeDriver driver equals to new ChromeDriver, I'll specify one more line. System, right, from java.lang dot set property. Now system is a class which specifies the things of the current system, right? The current Java, right? Now over here, this is static. This is why I am able to access the things inside it directly, right? So the static methods are set property, right? Now set property allows us to specify a property. What property? Let us just highlight this. Now you guys can read that over here. Sets the system property indicated by the specific key, right? Now it needs two things, key and a value. Now what is the key and what is the value? The key is specified here directly, webdriver.chrome.driver. Copy this and paste it here and remove the unnecessary spaces. Key is done. Now what about the value? What needs to be specified in the value, right? Value needs the path of that file. What is the path? A drive, then ChromeDriver.exe, right? So over here, a ChromeDriver.exe, I'll just copy this path and I'll specify it here. Now, if you notice something, it automatically added double backslash, right? So whenever you're dealing with the path in Java, make sure that you specify double backslashes every time so that it should be able to understand the path. Otherwise, you will not be able to work with the code, right? Now I have specified this thing. Let us just try running this code. Control F11. Notice something, it is giving me error. What is the error? What is the problem? See, I have made a mistake. I have missed out a semicolon. Adding up a semicolon is very important in the end of the line. Control F11. Now the code will execute normally. And you would notice something that the browser is opening with the help of the code, right? So over here, we would be able to open the browser. Browser is opened. Now in the same way, we can try up another browser as well. I'll comment out this part of code. Now let us just try Firefox browser, right? So Firefox driver equals to new Firefox driver. Done. Control F11. Again, it will give me an exception. The same exception, java.lang.illegal state exception. This means that it is not able to access that particular driver, right? Now we don't have a Firefox driver. So simply go back to the official website of Selenium, scroll down, go to browsers, go to Firefox documentation, and here scroll down a bit and download the latest version of ChromeDriver, right? So this is the option where you can download the ChromeDriver releases. Click here, and the latest version is 26.0, right? Notice one thing, there should be written latest release. Latest beta is not used. Make sure that you're downloading the latest release. Otherwise, scroll down and look up for the latest release here, right? This is verified, but it is not a latest release. So scroll up and download the file. Now these are the files you can download. I am using 64-bit version of Windows. Now I need to download the 64-bit version of file, right? So click here. It will take a little bit time to download. Now let us just keep it in the same directory, right? Open it and extract it in this A drive, right? Now done. Now this means that I can specify this driver executable. System dot set property. The property is now. What is the property now, right? Move here and look up for something. See, it is telling me that the driver executable must be set by this system property. Copy this and paste it here. Then what is the difference, right? See, earlier it was WebDriver.Chrome.driver. For Firefox, it is WebDriver.Jeco.driver. Now, what about the value? What is the path, right? Go back and get the file executable path. That is Jeco.driver, right? So here, Jeco.driver.exe, right? So I'll just copy this path and I'll paste it here in my code, right? A double backslash Jeco.driver.exe. Done. Make sure that you specify a semicolon by yourself if it is not automatically added. Control F11. Now we would notice something. Firefox browser would open. It will take a little bit time, but yes, it will open, and it has opened, right? Now this means that we have opened the browser, but how to deal with it, how to work with it? Now suppose I would want to ask the browser to open a web page. So driver dot get, and I would try to open some page, for example facebook.com, right? One of the most used websites, or say twitter.com. So www.twitter.com, right? Now if you notice something, I'm specifying a complete URL. Yes, we need to specify a fully qualified URL, right? This includes the protocol and the current format, right? Now let us just try running this code, right? Now over here, what would happen is that Firefox would open, and then it will be taking us to twitter.com, right? Notice something, I did not do anything from my side. By default, it is taking me to twitter.com, right? Now over here, let us just close this browser instance. Now can we do the same for Google Chrome as well? I'll just copy this line, I'll paste it here, and I'll comment out these 3 lines, and I will uncomment these two lines. Control F11. Let us just try running this code now. Okay, so over here Chrome is opening and it will be taking us to the same page, twitter.com, right? This means that the code is working fine, the browser is opening, and we are able to see the things that we wanted to see, right? So this is how you open up browsers with Selenium and you interact with them. Now in the next lecture we would be starting off with interfaces. So let us just get back to syllabus, what all things we are done. Let us just see that. So we're done with ChromeDriver, Firefox Driver, how constructor can be used, concept of constructor, system class static, basic drivers, static and non-static, creating objects, and concept of object-oriented programming. Let us just mark these as done with, say, green color, right? And we were done with everything here. I'll cover the debugging part again, so I won't be marking it as done. I'll cover it once again so that you guys get to understand how the things are going around. Okay, so over here regarding the IE driver, right? So how about Internet Explorer? Okay, so I want you guys to practice this, but there is something that needs to be done. Whenever you're interactive with the Internet Explorer, okay, I'll let you know that how what things you need to do, but not in the code. I want you guys to practice this yourself, but configuring Internet Explorer is a bit tough task. So open up Internet Explorer. First thing, go to settings. Here in the top right corner, go to Internet options. It will take a little bit time to see that, show that thing. Yeah, Internet options. Now over here in the Internet options, okay, this browser is very slow, and they're even asking us to upgrade to Microsoft Edge. Okay, so over here now go to the second tab, that is security, right? Click on Internet, and here uncheck this enable protected mode. Then move to local intranet, uncheck this enable protected mode. Then click on this trusted sites, uncheck this enable protected mode. And in the last restricted sites, again uncheck this enable protected mode, right? Uncheck enable protected mode everywhere, then click on apply, and then restart Internet Explorer. First thing is done. Second thing, downloading the driver for Chrome, right? So over here, Selenium download page, right? If you notice the browsers, Firefox, Internet Explorer. So here, click on configuration, right? Now over here, where is the Internet driver server executable? They're not providing it here, right? Where is it then? Simply do one thing, move back, scroll up, okay, and you would find something here, Internet Explorer driver server, right? Now as I'm using 64-bit version of Windows, so I'll download 64-bit Windows IE. Click here, it will take a little bit time to download. It is very small file. Open it, and here keep this file, okay, where? Here in the same directory, right? Now in the code, what is the class that I'll let you know? Internet Explorer, Internet Explorer driver, the complete name, okay, driver equals to new Internet Explorer driver. The browser won't open. I want you guys to open the browser, okay? So this is done, and I want you guys to do this thing yourself, right? And here control F11, error exists in this. What is the error? Okay, I'll just comment out this particular part. Okay, so over here, Okay, it is opening, maybe it is able to access the driver, but in your case it won't be able to read that exception that you're getting and say modify the say system.setProperty line accordingly and try opening the browser. This is one of the homeworks, right? This is one of the assignments. So I'll be giving you guys two assignments. First one is open say Internet Explorer and go to facebook.com, right? Next thing is something a bit different. Make a code to open say browsers dynamically. Right? How? For example, say you specify a driver in an say browser in a name, say in a variable browser name, right? Which should have the value. For example, it should have either Chrome or say Firefox or IE. Then according to the value of this variable, the browser would open accordingly. Okay, so these are the two things that I want you guys to do. Practice this yourself, and we'll be discussing about these things in the next lecture. Any query, guys?